Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads, where we talk about books usually about once a week, but it's been a hot minute. Turns out October can be just as busy as summer. We had Canadian Thanksgiving, which I hosted a dinner for, which was super fun, and we did a bunch of fall activities. So time just kind of slipped away, but I didn't want to miss on talking about the 6 books that I read in September because I have one new favorite book. It's a 5-star, and I had, I think, 2 4.5. So it was overall a fantastic reading month, and I really want to show you guys these titles. As usual, for my monthly wrap-up, stay tuned until the end to find out how much money I saved by using my library card. I will say that I won't pick a new book from my TBR jar because I still haven't started the one that I picked, or my boyfriend picked in my last video. But I did finish the 4th Harry Potter, the German version, Harry Potter und der Feuerkelch, from my last TBR jar pick this month, so that was a success. One more book off my physical TBR shelf. And it counts towards my goal of reading more books in German. For the rest of the books, I will talk about them in the order of worst to best. The worst book that I read in September, which was not that bad technically, it was 3 stars, is The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran. I was kind of let down. So this is marketed technically an erotic thriller. So our main character is Lily Albrecht, who's kind of down on her luck, middle-aged woman living in the state of New York and sometimes working in New York City. New York City kind of plays also a bigger part in this story alongside other cities, if I'm being honest. This is a lot of, there's a lot of travel in this book. She and a partner hear about this occult book that somebody is willing to pay millions and millions of dollars for, so she's going on a hunt. In general, I found that this is, for an erotic thriller, more a literary story than a thriller, and the erotic parts were very, very dry, which is why I ended up being disappointed by it, because I just had different expectations from it. I know other people have really liked this, and I understand that this has a very unhinged quality to it as well. So some of the things that the characters do or what happens to them are kind of crazy. Overall, it was interesting to follow Lily on this hunt for this book, following her around the world, but the story just got kind of competitive because it was always her doing something in the city, then doing something about the book, meeting people, and then traveling somewhere else, and then you repeat that like 5 times. The part that ended up being the most interesting to me was actually Lily's backstory about her and her actual life partners. So yeah, it didn't even end up being the occult book. Overall, this was unfortunately a miss for me, but I am still willing to read a different book by Sarah Gran because I think Come Closer has really great reviews. Next up with 3.5 stars is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I still yet have to actually read one of her books. So far, I've only been using the audiobooks, and I really like that format. So far so good. First of all, I was positively surprised that our main female character, I'm unfortunately forgetting her name, was not a petite 5-foot woman, but she was a tall woman, which came unexpected because I read the Loath to Love You novellas, and in all of them, the main character is the super tall hunk, and then the female character is a super petite woman. So that was a positive surprise. I pretty much got exactly what I expected from this. I had a good time with it. I like that the main character and also the other female characters in this book are usually very smart women. I mean, they're all working in STEM. They're well written. I enjoy the dialogues, and I think it's also very refreshing how self-conscious Ellie Hazelwood's romances are. So there's a lot of nods to the genre itself, be it romance books or even rom-coms. The story is about Olive, who is a 3rd-year PhD candidate who falls into this fake dating trope with Adam, who is a very hated professor at the same university. The STEM academic backdrop is extremely interesting. I hear that the author actually comes from such an academic background herself. So I've seen in reviews from people who are also working in academia that it is pretty accurate. I liked how Olive, for the most part, pretty much always made smart decisions. She would usually have good reasons to say or do something. I would never feel frustrated with her. This being a romance, one of the reasons why I didn't give this 4 stars and up is I honestly just didn't really like the steamy scenes. The way that they were written, they were just a bit too cringy for me. I thought there were some odd things thrown in there, which I'm not gonna get into details because I don't want to spoil it, but I thought it was just, yeah, I was laughing about them mostly. And Olive being a PhD candidate and Adam being a professor, even though she's not technically working with or for him, that's kind of an odd power imbalance. That oddly led to me feeling this power imbalance even more because he was so protective about her at some points in the story, which technically is like a cute, very nice thing, but because of the power imbalance, I thought that was just kind of off. So all in all, got exactly what I expected, solid 3.5. Next up with 4.5 stars, and I just might change it into a 5-star, is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is a reread. The first time around I read it, I was not in the right mindset. I think I gave it a 3 stars, didn't really enjoy it. And I feel like this time around I read it an entirely different story because I enjoyed it so much. If you are a fan of horror, if you love the haunted house trope, if you like character-based stories, then this is honestly a must read. This is so fantastically crafted. In a nutshell, this is a story about a professor wanting to explore a haunted house called Hill House. So he invites people with certain abilities and talents, people who have sensitivities, to the house where they spend a few days to try to basically put together a research group together. And during their stay, everybody starts experiencing very odd, vile things. So there's a lot of play with the house itself, on the rooms, the structures, the colors, just being off and feeling repulsive to the people inside, but also to the reader. And then there's obviously this element of how the people in the house interact with each other and what is going on in their own heads. I think this is the best book I have ever read about what isolation can do to a person. This is a fantastic character study as well on Eleanor, one of our main characters, who experiences a lot of FOMO. Let's just put it like that. And the interesting thing is, while she is clearly supposed to be an unlikable character, I think everybody at some point can relate to one of the things that Eleanor thinks or does or says. We all have a little bit of Eleanor in us. There's a lot of exploration on feeling left out and being sometimes quick to judge other people. One of the other characters, Theodora, sometimes Eleanor doesn't know if, and that's also my interpretation, if she wants to either be Theodora, be with Theodora, or just downright hate Theodora. There's a lot of nuance there. It's extremely enjoyable. This is an outstanding piece of fiction and an absolutely perfect read for October, November, or even December. So if you've never picked this book up and you do like horror, then I highly recommend this. I 100% see myself rereading this book for a 3rd time at some point. It's just that good and there's so much to unpack there. Next up, also with 4.5 stars, is The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. My god, this was unexpectedly fantastic. I mean, I knew that somewhere that I'm probably gonna give this 4 stars, but I was surprised by how I found myself thinking about the characters even after I finished this book. Do not be fooled with the title. This is not horror. It has elements of gothic horror in it. It does have vampires in it, but they're really not the main focus of the book. I would call this more a historic fiction with heavy romance elements, so because honestly that to me was the best part of the book. This takes place in the 1840s alongside the border of Mexico and US, when the US is attacking Mexico. And our main characters are Nena and Nestor. Their love story is one for the ages. I'm not gonna say too much because I think I'm gonna upload a separate review on this book, but let's just say this is one of my favorite love stories I read this year. I feel like I keep saying this in every video, but I just find more books to top the ones that I've read before, and This was just so wonderful. I had an instant liking to both of these characters and I wanted them to be together. There's quite a few things that they're up against. First, there's the attack of the US on Mexico, and then there's vampires, but then there's also the fact that Nestor left Nena for 9 years at a time and then came back as an adult. Anyways, more details to come. I still need to gather my thoughts, but just know that I love this book. I just realized I had the physical copy of Haunting of Hill House all along, but I forgot to pull it up. But anyways, now on to my last book and my 5-star read for September, and now one of my favorite fantasy series is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. If you've seen people talk about this on YouTube and they're raving about it, and that's honestly one of the reasons I picked it up, because people were loving it. Everybody's right. This is that good. This is technically a YA fantasy because our main character Bree is 16 years old, but I will say right from the beginning, it doesn't read like YA at all. Bree could have honestly been in the beginning or mid of her 20s as well, or even older than that. I thought she was very mature. So Bree gets admitted into an early college program for UNC Chapel Hill, which is, by the way, a real university. It is the oldest university or state-owned university in the United States. While this is a great opportunity for her, at the same time, this is a way for her to run away from her current life because her mother just tragically passed away recently in a car accident, and she just cannot face being with her dad and her life at the moment. Very quickly, she learns that there is a secret society amongst other secret societies at that university, but this one is based on Arthurian lore. She discovers that there's people who can see and who can wield magic in this world. And also, that secret society might have something to do with her mother's death. So she basically makes it her mission to become a part of that society to learn what really happened to her mother. I am in so much awe of how this book managed to combine so many different elements in this most amazing and successful way. So we're grieving with Bree because of her mother. We're learning about her family, about ancestry. There's a lot of African American history on this because UNC Chapel Hill is built by slaves. So that plays a huge part into this story. While I was super invested in trying to learn what this magic system is and how the secret society works, at the same time, I found myself getting so angry at so many instances because people were just so racist, and there's just so much discrimination against BIPOC people and students on this campus. All of the storylines are so strong, and we get so many details. I would say that the only element that we don't really get to know about a lot is Bree attending actual college classes. So that is something where I thought, oh, okay, technically she's in college, but we're not really seeing anything of that, which I understand. There are sacrifices that had to be made. I was also so invested in the romance part in this story, which is not taking over everything. So I will say that in case you're like, oh no, I don't want a romantasy. It's not a romantasy. I shed a bunch of tears in here as well for Bree and her mom. There's definitely a bit of work to be done, I think, in terms of pacing and info dumping. The story is very fast. You get thrown in there and Bree gets thrown in there very fast. She doesn't stay in the dark for too long, and I thought that the author found ways to just impart all of the knowledge to you, the reader, and then at a later point giving you all the explanations, because there are parts in the beginning where you're kind of confused, and then there's a small part somewhere in the book where it gets a little bit info dumpy, but that was to my liking at that point, because I was like, okay, I really need to know what this all means now. I need to know how the story continues, and I'm so happy to see that a lot of people say that they like the second book even more than the first. So I definitely want to get to the second book, if not end of this year, hopefully the beginning of next year. Absolutely love this, adore this so much. Please pick it up. It's so good. That was all the books I read in September. Now, by using my library card, I was able to save $85.94. So if you have your library card, don't forget to use it now and again. And if you don't have one yet, then you should definitely inform yourself and how you can sign up, because a lot of the times the city libraries are for free, or they just ask for a small fee on an annual basis. Did any of these books make it onto your TBR? I really hope so. And if you've read any of them, let me know what you think. Maybe we don't have the same opinions, which is fine. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.